Another bomb attack in Nairobi in a popular cinema in the Kenyan capital, injuring 2 people, about 10 days after a deadly attack in a hotel complex in the city whose investigation could take a new turn. Shortly, a response from the Chief of Police of Interpol, Tim Morris, who gave an exclusive interview to our colleagues from Euronews.
And French President Emmanuel Macron begins a 3-day visit to Egypt, his first since taking office in 2017. The trip includes a meeting with President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi for talks aimed at strengthening the strategic partnership between France and Egypt.
About 20 houses evacuated following the collapse of a tower in The Hague in the Netherlands. A gas explosion occurred yesterday, Sunday, also damaging neighboring buildings. And you know the drill, Monday means culture on the Morning Call, the chronique presented by Bridget Ugwe in the second part of the show. Stay with us.
Dans la seconde partie de cette édition du Morning Call et à ne pas manquer surtout.
Once again, we welcome you to the Morning Call today. Oxfam International recently released its annual report that gives shocking statistics on the world's growing wealth. The report, titled Public Good or Private Wealth, shows that the growing gap between the rich and the poor is undermining the fight against poverty, damaging economies and fueling public anger across the globe. As the wealth of a few rich people on earth has continued to grow, the poor majority have seen their wealth shrinking. According to the report, the 26 richest people on earth in 2018 had the same net worth as the poorest half of the world's population. A case of the rich getting richer and the poor getting poorer.
But this is nothing new indeed, Lynette, and above all, nothing insignificant, specifies the report published by Oxfam. According to the organization, this extreme and growing gap between the rich and poor is a direct result of political decisions taken by many governments. In many rich countries, taxes on wealth have been reduced or eliminated and are barely applied in poor countries. Only 4 cents per dollar of taxes were collected worldwide in wealth tax in 2015.
Collecté au niveau mondial en impôt sur la fortune en 2015, selon ce rapport.
But then what else can we do?
Mais alors, que faire?
Our colleagues from Euronews spoke to Oxfam Executive Director Winnie Byanyima, who shared her main concerns about global wealth inequalities and the tax reforms she felt were needed.
Quant aux inégalités de richesse à l'échelle mondiale et sur les réformes fiscales qui lui semblent aujourd'hui indispensables. On l'écoute.
So take a listen.
Our report shows that extreme inequality is out of control, that the wealthy and the big corporations are running away with more wealth, while the people at the bottom half of humanity is sinking. Their wealth is reducing. Last year it reduced by 11%. We are also finding that this is the responsibility of governments, that governments are fueling extreme inequality by failing to tax fairly rich companies and rich individuals. We also find that governments, by not taxing the wealthy, are also presiding over collapsing public services, particularly health and education. We find in our report that governments deliberately do not close tax loopholes for the rich. So they don't collect the revenues that could be collected, and they do not channel them into health and education of people in order to lift them out of poverty. So poverty is increasing. Our report says that this is not inevitable, this is not acceptable. There are solutions. The solutions are to tax rich companies, rich individuals, tax wealth, tax property, tax the incomes from wealth, tax financial transactions, and also put that money, plow it back into health and to education.
And Winnie, how does the role governments are playing affect women and girls, particularly in terms of their income?
We also find that when governments neglect their responsibility of investing in health and education, it's women and girls that suffer most. We all suffer, but it's women and girls who suffer most. Why? Because it's poor women who depend mostly on public services. for maternal health, for caring for the sick, for caring for children. When this is not paid for, they pull out of real work, incomes, and go to spend more time in unpaid care work. But also in many countries, when families can't afford education, it's the girl that is pulled out of school, because then a boy is left in school because there's male privilege. What does that mean? That extreme inequality also widens inequalities between boys and girls.
En fin de compte, les notions de service
So are
public
public service and private wealth incompatible? Not necessarily, explains Winnie Byanyima.
Not at all. In fact, in society, there will always be wealthy people and less wealthy people. It is the extreme inequality that is trapping millions in poverty. The World Bank has put out a report and said that the rate at which poverty is reducing is slowing. Poverty reduction is slowing because of extreme inequality. The World Bank has said that if extreme inequality is not reduced, in 2030, we won't have achieved the leave no one behind agenda. There will still be 200 million people living in poverty unless extreme inequality is reduced.